The most important skill for you to learn in Final Fantasy XIV isn't your rotation, it's consistency. Consistency is what decides whether people want to keep raiding with you or quietly replace you next week. Throughout my raiding journey, I've cleared many fights, and sometimes over 100 times. I love doing these fights over and over again, but I don't think I'd feel the same way if I was dying over and over again to mechanics I know how to execute. The only reason I still enjoy pulling the same fight 100 times is because I'm not randomly dying to things I already know. That's what consistency fixes. So why is consistency important? Final Fantasy XIV players don't like to raid with people who aren't consistent. Raiding, at its core, is a time commitment, and I think you might agree when I say no one likes to waste time. But this also means the more consistent you are, the more people want to raid with you. I'm sure we all have that one friend who you would love to raid with every day, but because they have a more laid-back mindset, it's hard to get things done. Now, I want to make this really clear. There's nothing wrong with being more laid-back. Final Fantasy XIV is popular because there's a space for everyone. But for those of you who are looking for more, I start with building consistency. Unironically, I think the very first thing is to lock in. Eliminate distractions. Raiding in 14 takes a lot of focus, and mechanics take seconds to kill you. You can't solve mechanics if you aren't looking at them, so what are some ways we can improve this? For me, I like to put my phone on silent. I keep it in front of me because I'm an adult and people need me, but for the most part, I try not to look at it as best I can. I also listen to music while I raid, but I'm very selective. I listen to the same playlist every time, so my focus doesn't shift to the music while I'm raiding. You should also aim to be as well rested as you can. The more energy you have, the better. Think of it exactly as driving a car. Don't drink and drive, don't text and drive, and don't drive when you are emotional. Because when you're distracted, you increase the odds of crashing by over 1,000%. Now take this analogy and replace the word drive with raid, and the odds don't change. So to summarize, control the factors outside of raid so that you can actually focus when you are raiding. Now let's talk about our rotations. Being familiar with your rotation is something all players should strive to do. It's fun to press your buttons on time, and doing lots of damage and clearing the fight is the reward. But why does that matter? Your rotation is almost like a cell phone. It lights up and notifies you on how to do your damage. You hit a button and this one lights up, you hit another button and that one lights up, and then you're dead. But what happened? Well, the answer is probably, I don't know, and that's why it matters. Being too focused on your rotation can cause you to wipe to mechanics. So the solution? Take the time and understand your rotation outside of raid. You need to get to a point where you could freestyle your rotation around mechanics. I break rotations down like this: opener, odd minute burst, even burst setup, even burst window. After getting to play every job in Final Fantasy XIV, I've come to realize that all job rotations follow this pattern, some more strict than others. Because of this, I'm able to do enough damage to clear a fight without putting too much thought into my rotation, and the extra focus gets put towards solving mechanics and staying alive. Disclaimer: spreadsheeting and planning your GCDs ahead of time also accomplish this goal, but not everyone can or even wants to memorize 8 minutes worth of buttons. This is more common in parsing and speeds. So in other words, less time looking at buttons equals more focus on the boss. The absolute most important thing you could do to improve your consistency is fundamentally understanding mechanics, and not just how to solve them. This is something that actually takes you to the next level of consistency, because let's face it, we are going to get distracted by something during a pull. It happens to all of us. I'll give you 2 examples from Futures Rewritten. Fall of Faith is a mechanic that for some reason everyone spaces out in. So what happens when you reach the point of the tether disappearing and you either have to stack or spread? Well, because we know that it has to be one or the other, we could look at our teammates to see what they are doing, and assuming they are right, we could adjust accordingly. And if they are wrong, then we were wrong together. That's a pretty simple example, so let's move on to one that's more complex. During Ultimate Relativity, we get some debuffs, and let's just say that your 20-second fire goes out and the DPS dies to damage. Now you have 2 options. Either 1, hope that the healer can get them up in time, or 2, the party gets blasted. But what if I told you there was actually a 3rd option? The player with the ice debuff doesn't get a vuln, which means they could go and aim the laser for the dead player, resolving the mechanic, and the party is saved. This is something that guides or POVs won't really go too much into detail on, They tell you where to go and when to go, but they don't explain the little details that mechanics might have. Details that we just saw save a pull for the team. So all in all, understanding the mechanic in its entirety allows us to recover when we are distracted or even when others make mistakes. The biggest hack to improving your consistency is VOD review. Not only to see how mechanics work, but to see how you work. You might not be aware of all the things you do in a pull. You know all of the mechanics because the fights are scripted. For example, in a pull you die to damage, you might think back to yourself, did I press my mitigation? The answer in some cases is yes. But when we look back at the VOD, we could see that it fell off too early or was applied too late. Because of this, we can adjust the timing so it covers the damage, which is something we may not realize during a pull or without tools such as FF logs. Right now, you're probably breathing and you probably haven't blinked in a while, so blink now. Anyways, the point is you could be doing something that you aren't conscious of 100% of the time, good or bad, so make sure to VOD review whenever possible. I use OBS as it's free and easy to set up. Finally, you just have to invest meaningful time to be consistent. I don't just mean sink a ton of hours into a fight. Sure, that can help, but what matters most is the intention behind it. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You're going to die when you're learning a fight for the first time. You might even still be dying after the 10th or 20th time, but what matters is that you learn from these deaths and keep on pulling. I've started a community on Discord where I share all of my tips and tricks about raiding, so make sure to check out the description to join today. I also stream live on Twitch Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Central. This is where I answer all questions live. Make sure to leave a like if you found any of these guidelines helpful, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.